So I would like for the farmers to reach out because we're ready and able to assist them.
Our main objective is to get a relationship with the farmer and to see what is the health status of livestock in the country generally.
Rabies signs of it is like salivation, like heavy drooling. The animal acts aggressive. They hydrophobic, that means like they're scared of water and so.
So it's an inspection done to live animals to ensure that the animals are healthy. They are in good health. So with that we check for pregnancy, we check for any abnormalities.
If you give medication and you underdose, it means therefore that when you underdose, the medication will be only able to target a certain amount of the internal parasite.
The Vet and Livestock Department of the Ministry of Agriculture is once again on the beat with its livestock outreach, this time in the parish of St. Patrick, the community of Rose Hill. The team, inclusive of Chief Vet Officer, livestock officers and assistants, rendered services to pigs, goats, sheep and cattle.
Today we are here, the Veterinary and Livestock Division here in the village of Rose Hill, to provide support to the livestock farmers in this village and in the surrounding community. Okay, and the support includes veterinary assistance, providing vaccination, and also, which is very important, technical advice towards production and management. Okay, and I must say that this is very timely, given the onslaught of the COVID-19 pandemic. Many of our livestock farmers have been significantly impacted. So we're here to give them a gentle hand up, to let them know that we care, okay? And I must say this, that, we are in this together, yeah, with the ultimate goal of reducing on importation of, food of animal origin, okay? And what we are doing today is not isolated or a one-off. In fact, we provide these very same services on a daily basis, okay? So I would like for the farmers to reach out because we're ready and able to assist them. I'm listening to the long songs to see if there's any respiratory infection. Okay, when there's respiratory infection, you tend to hear increased songs when you auscultate the lungs. You may hear things like crackles and wheezes and so on. And in this case, I'm not hearing. No. So more than likely, what this sheep has is bot fly, is an insect that will lay in the nostril, and in the developmental stage, you would convert from egg to a larvae, which is a worm, and will go up to the nasal passage and create irritation. And the body protects itself by releasing mucus, right, as a protective mechanism. And that's what you're seeing here. Okay, so it's a means of coping with the parasitism. One of the major things we're noticing is most of these animals are parasitized. Okay, and parasitism is more or less a management issue and not so much of a veterinary issue. Okay, so parasites operate or function through a cycle. Okay, most of them, the ones in particular we have concerns for will be the roundworms. Okay, so how the roundworms operate is the animal would have the parent worms inside of them, like in the stomach, and they would release eggs. The eggs will come out through the feces, okay? And when the feces go onto the ground in the pastures, in about 2 weeks or so, the eggs will hatch out into larvae, and they'll be ready to go back into the same host, okay? So what needs to be done is to break that cycle. So when the worm hatches out, it shouldn't have a host to go into, and it's going to starve and die. So there are many ways to do this. One includes keeping them in pens, right? A housing with raised slatted flooring where the feces is going to fall through, okay? And the goats will not have access to their feces, okay? So, and again, once the feces fall through, the eggs fall through, when they hatch out, they would starve and die. Okay? But in order for this to work, the housing must also have a feeding trough. Okay, so you're separating feeding from defecating. Okay? Another method is for farmers, because we know not all farmers, should I say, might be able to afford housing. Okay, and they may have access to lands for grazing. You know, we support grazing. Okay, in fact, it's even not as labor intensive as, you know, housing, which we call intensive production. But what they have to do is rotate their pastures, whether they have them free ranging or what we call extensive production, or they have them tethered like we see here. But so what would have to happen is this sheep in particular, it is here today. Okay, so after today's grazing, okay, it should not go back to that spot until about a month or so. And that would allow the worms to hatch out and die. Because they need either a sheep or a goat to reinfest for them to survive. Okay, so that's something we want to promote. So rotational grazing on pastures, and when you have them in pens, make sure you have the raised slatted floor, which will allow the feces to fall through, and feed them in a feeding trough away from the floor.
Our main objective is to get a relationship with the farmer and to see what is the health status of livestock in the country generally, and to identify the different genetic material that we have so that in the future we know when we are targeting programs that we have to launch, that we know where the genetic material, the good genetic material is, especially in the case of artificial insemination, to be able to improve on that, the said genetic material, to improve on a breed or productivity, and to increase on the flock size through reproduction. A lot of farmers was concerned about the rabies, the animal getting infected with rabies because there are a lot of mongoose in the area. So they were anxious to get their animal vaccinated.
Rabies is a viral disease. It's endemic to Grenada. It's fatal. It's somewhat prevention is better than cure. Rabies signs of it is like salivation, like heavy drooling. The animal acts aggressive. They hydrophobic, that means like they're scared of water and so. Infection, if it's infected, is most likely death, if not checked on. So, as I said, prevention is cure. So even if like they start to show signs of rabies, it's already too late to do anything. So prevention is better than cure. So in Grenada, most of the time we do vaccination. Importance in the sense of like a lot of, for farmers not to lose their stock, and so rabies is a zoonosis, so it could be transferred to human. I would encourage farmers to get their animals vaccinated. They could lose their stocks, disease could be transmitted, and so it's fatal to human and the animal. So as a form of prevention, you could set traps and so for the rabies, for the mongoose, and get your animal vaccinated as early as possible. The vaccines we use here are every year, one dose every year, once the animal is over 3 months. That would be dogs, cats, and farm animal, livestock, so like goat, sheep, cattle, donkey. Today's activity is fitting because the area around here where we farm rapport with the farmers, and so most likely they've seen a high level of mongoose going around, and some are affected, and so as follow-up, I think it's an area we could return and see where we could help them out.
Well, the rabies is very important because there's a lot of mongoose down here. Yeah, so it's very important, and the warming, I normally do it myself, but it's a plus to get it too. It's very important that farmers seek that interest because it's a part of their livelihood and also the health of the animals. You know, you want, especially like if you're slaughtering and stuff, you want to know that you're killing healthy animals.
I got for the animals some deworming medicine and some the rabies vaccine. And for the rabies vaccine is very important for me because on my farm here we have a lot of mongoose. Understand? So I know for a fact I lose animals already from rabies, so that is something that is not very nice. So I'm happy that I could get the rabies shot and the deworming shot from the Ministry of Agriculture.
A lot of farmer has great interest in reproduction in the sense that they want to increase on the stock and they're asking for good breeds. Yeah. So in so doing, we will know where the interest lie, the stocks, the herds, sizes, the availability of pastures, and so based on where they are located.
So for the people who would want to know how to determine the age of the goat, because if you do not know if it's pregnant, it's very unlikely that you may know what is the age of it, right? So we check the age by looking at the teeth, right? You notice how I cook the animal like that, I put the horn back on my foot like that, I hold the beard. You want to have complete control, so you could maneuver the animal as you want, right? Man has to have control over beast, beast cannot control over man, right? Principle. Right, so then you would open the mouth like this. Now each goat, sheep, each one has 4 pairs of teeth, right? But the age is determined based on the growth pattern, and the growth pattern usually be from the inside out. All right. So you look at the first pair of teeth in the middle here. All right. Now, if all these teeth were the same size as this one to the extreme here, we call that milk teeth. All right. And it would definitely be below 1 year of age. Right. If all is like this size. So as it is now, this goat is, you see these 2 pair of teeth in the middle here, they are fully developed. So we are sure that this goat is 1 year, at least 1 year. But then you check the next pair, this one and this one, and you see that they almost to the size of this, right? So it could be well, maybe about 1.5 years plus, all right, approaching 2 years, all right? Now when these 2 become same size with this, then it's 2 years. Then when these 2 become same size, right, it's 3. And then when the outer one here and the outer one here become same size with the rest, we call it full mouth. So it's 4 years and moving beyond. All right? Okay, so that's how you determine the age. Huh? Well, once it's full mouth is past 4 years. Sometimes what happens is that as the goat approach aging, getting older, what you would find start happening is that you will start seeing some of the teeth on them moving apart, some of them shaking, right? It's something similar to us, you know, the older we get, if we have enough calcium and phosphorus in the body, the teeth start falling apart, it start rotting and all kind of stuff, right? All right. And then again, the duration of the teeth would depend too on what feeding management practice that you have. Because remember, goats are browsers. In other words, they climb to eat. And sheep, they are grazers. Right? Now, if you have a goat eating in the same way because of condition of management, eating in the same way as the sheep, what you'd find happening is that these teeth and them, they would rot very fast. Alright? Alright. Okay. So that's it? Right. Yes. Then the next thing to determine if it have worms, most farmers, you ask them, when the last time you did a worm, and you don't know. Alright? Right. So there is a simple test that we use using the Famacha. Right. Okay, have it. Okay? Now this has been internationally proven, right? And it is based on the coloration of the eyes. Alright? So you take this finger and you bring the lower lid and you match it against it. Now, this jelly-like, right, you see this jelly-like thing you see in here? This jelly-like, okay, so this jelly-like substance here is what you're using as the indicator. So you match the cat against it like that. Now, if it is red, 1 and 2, it does not need deworming. When it reaches 3, that is question. You either deworm or not deworm. Most time we get the benefit of deworming. But when you see it reaches number 4, which is this one here, which it seems to be like, you see, then you know definitely you have to deworm. And then when it reaches number 5,
You need blood transfusion.
well, it's anemic, and that is the knockdown stage. You can come anytime and just see that animal on
And
the
when
ground.
you reach number 5, the only thing that could bring back is blood transfusion, because you see, when you deworm, it have to wait until it eat the nutrients, and then it absorb into the bloodstream and produce all the platelets and the red cell, and that would take a time. Yeah.
So shoulder blown tape. Okay, so we're doing the hard gut measurement, right?
Hold on.
So you did this for how much already?
Hard gut, right?
Get to calculate.
So I have 25. Okay. And from the shoulder here to the pelvic bone here is that 119. Okay? So based on the formula is 25 multiplied by 25 multiplied by 19 divided by 300. And that should give us a fair idea as to what the width of this goat is.
39.5.
Right, so close to 40
pounds.
Right, so if the medication tell you 1 ml based on what you're using, because you have albendazole, but you have different brand, different concentration. So ivermectin, for example, may have a different concentration, okay, and dosage than the albendazole, right? So, for example, the albendazole, what means tell us what you use there, maybe 1 ml to 25 kilo or 20 kilo. So 20 kilos is about 40 pounds, right? So you know definitely 1 ml is what you're actually supposed to give.
The gun is graduated, so I set it to what I want, and I control by the squeeze on the gun, right? So I know how much I'm squeezing to get how much mLs coming out of the gun, right?
So just to add again, normally with goats, you usually double the dose. And that is simple because the physiological makeup of the sheep is different to that of the goat, right? So how the goat will metabolize and everything will be different. So if it is 1, based on the medical, it means that you have to double it to give it 2.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. And as I said earlier on, you try to avoid getting the gun into the trachea, so it goes into the esophagus. And that will be done based on the angle that you push the gun in. So we angling it and to the side, and then you squeeze. You see, this is the gradation here, so I'm squeezing, and I'm actually giving this one 5. Yeah?
Some of the animals, they're going to be slaughtered come mid-December, okay? So we want to give them that final boost, okay, for them to be able to put on a few more pounds so the farmers can make a little more profit. And it's important that we're here today because all of the medication that we use, they have what we call a withdrawal period. And withdrawal period is a period where the drug is no longer found in the blood, okay, or what we call a residual effect. So if an animal gets slaughtered before the withdrawal period after being given a drug, the people who consume that meat would actually be consuming the residue of that drug, okay? So all of the drugs that we use here today, most of them they're like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, okay? So that would give the farmers sufficient time, you see what I'm saying, for them to be able to slaughter mid-December.
Antemortem is the inspection of live animals before it goes to slaughter. So it's an inspection done to live animals to ensure that the animals are healthy. They are in good health. So with that we check for pregnancy, we check for any abnormalities, We check for disabilities and such. If any of these are not part of the animal, no signs is shown in these animals, they go towards slaughter. This is a good initiative by the Vet and Livestock Department, and it only makes my job easier being out here, having to treat the animals. You're ensuring that healthy animals are brought to the slaughterhouse. So it makes my job a bit easier. In the consumption of meat, you want to ensure that you eat healthy meat. In that you don't want no like free of disease, free of any illness, parasites or so. So being part of this initiative today, we helping to stamp out most of those things. So we almost ensuring that healthy animals appear at the abattoir.
Housing is probably one of the most important aspects that any farmer, whether it's backyard, small commercial or large commercial farmer, should consider. Housing provides basically for the comfort of the animal. And just as how when we lie down or we sit in our houses, we want to feel comfortable, the animal has the same right, to feel comfortable. Proper housing would augur well for fast growth. Again, it's a part of management, of good management, right? And even when you provide in housing, the house must be constructed properly. In fact, there are standards and design when it comes for animal production and housing for different species, right? And particularly with pigs. Pigs are, if not maybe the strongest among animals. Pigs are very strong, and you don't underestimate them. And therefore, when you housing pigs, the material you use must be durable, right? And in that case, where you use concrete, a number of things have to be borne in mind. One, in a proper design pen, when you use concrete, the partition, yes, would be in hard wall as it is here. The inside partition should be done in such a way that it affords for ventilation or airflow to move through. Then the inside of the wall, we recommend that you smooth it, right? And the reason being, if for example that pig has a mite infection, the likelihood is that once they had the mite, they will constantly rubbing against the wall to get the comfort, and in so doing, the mites now will be deposited all within the crevices of the wall. So if the veterinarian comes to treat that animal for mite, which is an external parasite, he cannot treat the animal and don't disinfect and treat the rest of the pen. Because what you would find happening is that if he treats the animal and didn't look after the walls, especially where you see they are rough, right? Then it's just a matter of reinfection, maybe in a matter of hours, right? And then the next thing to critically, as Dr. Simona mentioned, pigs and poultry, they are among what we call non-ruminant, right? So they're like us, non-ruminant. The difference between pig and us is that we have pores in our body. So when outside is excessively hot, we get rid of the internal heat by sweating, right? And that is why you see we sweat, and the sweat helps to cool down the body. Now, pig don't have that privilege, all right? And it means therefore that excessive heat is not the best condition for both pigs and poultry, right? So you really want to mitigate against, that happening. So the roof must be of a particular height, all right? And then of course the dimension of the of the pen must be so designed as to hold the number of pigs that you have within the walls of it, right? So definitely some help is needed here, whether it's the initiative of the farmer or some good-hearted, kind-hearted person, then I'm sure the farmer would welcome the assistance, yes, so to provide proper housing for the pigs. I don't know if Dr. Simona have anything to add.
Yeah, Mr. Bonald was very correct. So in this particular situation, the blockhead, the blocks would have needed to be erected straight. The top should be tied. A pig needs about 8 square foot. Yeah. So The size is adequate for the amount of pig. In fact, because we have some pigs here. Yeah, it's more than enough. In fact, right now they're so active, they're burning out their energy. Instead of converting it into meat, they're burning it having fun.
The objective of the outreach have surpassed what we wanted it to be.